Welcome, Diablo 4 lovers. Damage and survival secrets for Season 8. First, the basics, and we're looking at a Death Trap rogue here. In order to not die, you need the 1000 armor and the 70 resistances. That's a lie. You don't. I have 0 armor. This is Torment 4, and I also don't actually have the resistances up. And yet I managed to survive. This has multiple reasons for the rogue. Reason number 1 would be if I put down a death trap, enemies are being thrown around. Like I'm not even being attacked right now. So like same here, right? I just you just don't get attacked. So you obviously get away with having no defense because if no one is hitting you, then you're not getting hurt. No worries. We'll talk about this on all the classes. Like, how does the barbarian do it? Can he get away with 0 armor as well? Surprisingly, he actually can if you do it the right way. But why can we get away with 0 armor and not a lot of resistances? In case of the rogue, the trick would be barium, and a consistent barium, because I do use up all my energy with every cast of the death trap. With the second wind, I get 8,000 baria per cast. Even if something touches me, I instantly get this 8,000 baria back. So it's like, what? We're pretty much trading hits back and forth. And for some reason, baria seems to always be maximum elemental resistance. I can walk into a lightning bomb with 0 lightning resistance, but if I have baria, it will still not tear me apart. If I walk into this without baria, I'll just get deleted. The real reason I can get away with these things, though, is my maximum life. You need your maximum life up, because I might be getting baria, but the baria is based on 45% of your maximum life. If I only had 10,000 life, that would be barely any baria. But since I do have 16,000 life, it's a lot. Now to the question, how do you get so much maximum life? Well, you truly go for these greater life affixes. I don't have maximum resource greater affix, nope. This is also maximum life greater affix. Again, in this case, overpower damage, then attack speed, but both have maximum life. We get maximum life increase on this one. Then again, maximum life, this one is terrible, and maximum life. You truly want all of these maximum life things, but then in your Paragon board as well, you want to take the boards that have the maximum life things going on. And even the tiny 2% ones, they matter so much. Here, I'm actually missing another 4% max life. But let's assume I take this 4, 2, 2, and 2% off. That's 10% less. That's already 1,000 life shaved off again. 1,000 life, also less baria. Alone, this board is giving me the 10% with 4% missing. Then we have another 4% with 4% missing with 6% more. 2 and 2% max life, I'll take it. Another 2, 2, 2 with 4% max life. This board, 8% again. And down here, obviously, all the every single thing that matters. Life is not the only thing, though. We do also have to talk about damage reduction, because this is being criminally not looked at. First, coming back to Baria and the Necromancer. Here you do have the Soul Rift, which always buries you fully up. But in my case, I want to play minions and Army of the Dead. So how do I stay alive? And that's where boss powers come in play. I actually cast my Army of the Dead here, and oh look, I am fully buried up. But how does that work? How can you get fully buried up without actually having a single skill to bury yourself up? Haha! That would be the Blackmailer's Sabotage boss power. Whenever you gain Fortify, additionally gain 30% of the amount as Baria. Well, I get Fortify whenever I make a corpse. That's 15% of my max life. Again, more max life, more Fortify. And in this case, 30% of this as Baria. My Army of the Dead is leaving behind corpses with the skeletons that are coming out. And then with 10,000 life, and if I drink a potion even more, we get a huge barrier coming that keeps us with 1,000 armor, and in this case, almost max resistance from dying at all. And this works on every character that does Fortify. My Boulder Druid has 23,000 life. If I drink a potion, we're at 28,000, and if everything goes up, it's 50,000. Your Earth skills are now also Werebear skills and fortify you. If I now walk in and spam my Earth skills, I am consistently always bury it up. Never not bury it up. And that's actually important because you want to keep your maximum life up, to keep the maximum fortify up, to do the maximum damage with Overpower. We'll get to the Overpower damage scaling in this video because I see a lot of people still being confused on how maximum life actually affects the Overpower damage. Might be your main mistake where you're not doing maximum damage. See, 52,000 life, 500 armor again, resistances not full, and yet we're running around, and as long as the barrier is up, as long as we keep continuously burying, casting our skills, we're actually not being scratched. Again, an advantage of this build is that it's actually pummeling enemies around and knocking them back constantly so they can't actually attack, because if you're getting hit by ginormous boulders, you can't hit back. Now, Fortify has another good use. It is 15% damage reduction. If you're fortified, if it's full, you take less damage. If you then have barrier up and enemies can't reduce your Fortify, that's great, because you'll do more damage with Overpower, but you continuously have this 15% damage reduction for your barrier as well. Now, damage reduction is what you 100% need on top of the armor. And the armor should be 1,000, especially if you do play without barrier, because damage is getting multiplicative higher. You get hit with 1,000 armor, you get 85% damage reduction. But you get hit with 900 armor, the damage just exponentially grows higher. The same goes for resistances. Having 50 instead of 70% doesn't sound like a big difference, but it is huge, especially considering that enemies are doing tons of damage. And that's also where damage reduction comes in. And in this case, any kind of damage reduction, either the flat damage reduction like this from the Paragon board, or more special damage reduction while fortified. All of these are important because they're being added on top of the armor. Enemy is doing 100,000 damage hit. Good. That's times 0.85% if it was physical. He still does 15,000 damage. That would, in this case, not delete me because I have the maximum life. My Necromancer and my Rogue, they'd be gone. Now, on top of this 15,000, all your damage reductions will add up. I have normal damage reduction from poisoned, damage reduction while fortified. Fantastic. One thing to keep in mind here, you can't reach 100% damage reduction. Damage reduction has diminishing returns. You get like 20%, and then you get 20% of the 20%, and then 20% of the 20 of the 20%, 20% of the 20. It gets less efficient the more and the more and the more you stack. Make sure to have some, but you don't need all of it. My Summoner Barbarian might be a prime example of this. I don't have maxed armor, and my resistances are shoddy at best. Going to the same pit 70s the other characters went for, we have 20,000 life. Again, keep in mind that 20,000 life. And in this case, we're not playing barrier. I could play the Fortify barrier. We have our Ancients. That helps because the Ancients are obviously also making enemies not hit me. But you notice how I'm actually taking consistent damage. I mean, I'm re-healing, because that's an advantage of the Barb. There's a lot of healing happening, but I do get hurt. Yet I don't get hurt to a level that you would actually expect as you're looking at my defenses, because my defenses are for Torment 4 or for Pit 70 kinda shoddy, right? I'm like, I walk in here, just let them hit me, I would die. If I don't do anything, I would die. I need to act. I need to do things, right? To make sure to not die, to keep them crowd controlled, to also keep my healing up. And in the Barb's case, I'm just healing against what you're doing. Your shouts also heal allies for 3% of their maximum life. If I challenging shout, I get 20% more life, even more life. And my rallying cry fortifies me. Fortify in this case is 15% damage reduction. And also, while you have Fortify for over 50% of your maximum life, and we would also heal if we spend Fury. So if we spam our skills, we actually do get healed. But the real deal is stuff like Aggressive Resistance, 24% damage reduction while berserking. Okay, 6% damage reduction from close enemies. Our shout skills cause enemies to deal 12% less damage. 40% damage reduction, close enemies with challenging shout. That's already a lot. But we're not even at the end. We have damage reduction from elites, all damage reduction from bleeding, damage reduction while healthy, and damage reduction while fortified. Holy moly! And there's even more damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, and I think I have damage reduction from healthy, and there's damage reduction from bleeding enemies. It's not all about the maximum armor, but the maximum armor is the easiest thing to get. You just slam on some gems, you get yourself an armor stat instead of movement speed, your total armor tempers, and bam, that 1000 armor is not a problem, even if you are wearing tons of unique items and don't actually have the slots. Hell, you could do a total armor percentage temper on your amulet, even though you don't feel like it. You want to go for earthquake size, but if you're really lacking and if you really want to survive, total armor tempered on the amulet is always possible. Okay, that was a lot about defense. But what about damage now? And for this, we're going to pull out a Spiritborn, because that's probably the most telling. Damage is in a very awkward place. This Spiritborn didn't exist 4 hours ago. Doesn't really have anything special, don't really have many greater affixed items. I do have a Sepason tag though, fully mastered up. This is a Overpower build that doesn't have native overpowers, which means I only do damage every XXX hits. But as I then overpower, everything just goes away. So hit, overpower. Hit, overpower. Right? And as I then overpower, that's where the big damage numbers are coming together. But why is overpower so strong? Crit so weak? And how do you even scale overpower properly? The state we're in with Diablo and damage is a bit silly, because if your build doesn't do overpower, you'll do always way less damage than the overpowering builds, because overpower can critical strike, and therefore if you overpower critical strike, your damage will always soar. I mean, I literally went from doing like 1 million damage to hundreds of millions of damage by adding overpower into the fray. And I do have to use runes for that. In order to actually overpower, I need Zen. Your next attack will cause your hits to be guaranteed critical strike and overpower. Cool. And for this, I'm actually casting mobility skills. That would be my main attack. And that mobility skill would cost Horrid to Crepify, which then activates invoke a skill from another class. And then every 4th/5th hit, I overpower. Now, how do we scale overpower? And how do we do more damage with it? For this, we can hover over our overpowered damage. Extra damage granted to skills when they overpower, further increased at the moment of impact based on your maximum life, and fortify. So, maximum life plus fortify times that overpower damage multiplier, x then critical strike damage, and all other damage multipliers you have. And for some reason, since Season 6, because our base life is now closer to our max life, overpower has been going completely bonkers. Look at the current top builds. Necromancer, Bloodwave overpower, Bone Spear overpower, Death Trap, overpower. Sorceress also overpowering with Lightning Spear. Boulder Druid overpower, Cataclysm overpower. Good. The Summoner Barbarian does do critical strike damage, and not a single point of overpower, but the Barbarian also has Heavy Hitter where it gets 400% bonus damage. That's like overpower. We'll get to those tempers in a bit. Oh, and Spiritborn, overpower as well. Which means to really scale the overpower damage, you want as much maximum life as possible, and then get also the maximum amount of fortify. And don't forget to increase your overpower damage bonus and your critical strike damage vice versa, because there's no use to have 10,000 overpower damage and only 1,000 critical strike damage. You kind of want to keep this into a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 ratio, as having too much overpower damage will lead to diminishing returns. A Druid is probably the perfect example for this, of having maybe a little bit too much overpower damage and needing to get that critical strike damage in line with this. It's still okay-ish. And the best way to boost these values is over glyphs and tempers. Dominate here gives me bonus overpower damage, but it also multiplies up all your overpower damage. You deal 6% increased overpower damage. This directly multiplies the 6,000 up. It's like the 6,600 times 6%. The further I upgrade this glyph now, the more multiplicative that goes upwards. And the same goes for my critical strike damage with the spirit glyph. Right now I have a 309% overpower damage temper on my weapon. And to be fair, it would probably be better if I changed this one, Worldly Finesse, over to critical strike damage. But I only have one single reroll remaining. Same goes for my rings. Overpower damage, and my gloves, in this case, critical strike damage. Could definitely tinker a bit to get them more in line with each other, because I do critical strike overpowers, and they should nicely work together to get in that 5-to-1 ratio. Now, why are you not seeing the damage numbers that others do? Where's your 20 billions? Why is your Barbarian not hitting? And that's simply because your tempers and your Masterworks suck. There's 2 stages to this. I have heavy hitter, for example, on my one-handed weapon with 4 ranks to heavy hitter. Now, every single rank of heavy hitter gives me 15% more damage to my ultimate skills and earthquakes. That would be double damage on the barbarian. If I now go for the tempering, step 1 would obviously be hitting the maximum. You need to get the maximum ranks. In this case, 10 because it's masterworked up already, but you get the drift. You need to hit the 4. 4 would be maximum. And then you're obviously going to be going for the masterworking to push the weapon further. And every 4th masterwork, you do get that 25% bonus to something. In order to get the maximum damage now, I need to hit this 25% hit on heavy hitter as often as possible. 2 times is best because it's 10 versus then only 8 if I hit it once. That would be 2 more ranks to heavy hitter, or a grand total of 4 more ranks if I hit it 3 times. Now 3 times is unlikely, but another 2 more ranks would already be 30% more damage. Here also another hit would be 2 more ranks, 60% more damage. I'm letting 60% damage lie on the streets. Everyone that's doing hundreds of billions of damage with Summoner Barb, the crazy streamers, they have the 12 out of 12, the 12 out of 12, and also the maximum masterwork here on heavy hitter possible. That's where the true damage then is coming from, with the right masterworks. Same goes here for your amulet. I get that strength double masterwork for 38.5%. And since I need to reach 4,000 strength, this is kind of mandatory to actually hit to get your damage up, considering that your strength is also increasing your all damage of everything you do. And that for every single class. You truly want to have one of those willpower, dexterity, intelligence, whatever multipliers on one item, as it just really makes your main stat go broom. In case of my Boulder Druid, I also get more overpower damage the more willpower I have. Double amazing. And let's not forget the amazing tempers or abilities to deal double damage. Chance for your basic skills to deal double damage. This pretty much then with overpower has to go bonkers. If I would do a 1 billion hit, well, you get the drift. It would be the double damage essentially. Because if your base damage is everything you do is higher, then the outcome is higher as well. You then have more maximum life, more fortify, everything coming together, then wham. That's where your double damage goes out. There's any chance to either get a skill to do more double damage via a temper, or to have your unique item give you that, you want to multiply it up for the blood wave, for the bone spears, for whatever you're doing. A final very important thing to mention is skill ranks. I have plus 22 on my boulder, and every bonus skill rank is 7% multiplicative more damage. Yeah. So the more ranks I manage to cheese into this, base outcome higher, max outcome bigger too. And for this, you have so many ways. You can get your core skill ranks up, or boulder on my boots. Plus then here, wrath skills and crushing earth. This is actually a wrath skill. Then I get 5 more ranks if I use hurricane. And a shapeshifting skill gets 5 more ranks, and 5 more ranks from my insatiable fury, plus 2 more ranks if I have fortify. This is not even the max. Yeah, you can go up to 35 ranks roughly with boulder if you have everything maxed out with all the rolls, and that will just lead to insane damages. The same goes for your ulti. It will reduce the cooldown, or in case of the cataclysm, cooldown, and immensely boost the damage. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions left? Anything you'd like to ask? Drop it in the comments below. I'll be making sure to give you a proper answer. Otherwise, drop by on the live stream where we anyways are able to answer all your questions. Monday to Fridays and Sundays from 8 AM to 4 PM German times. And if you're not looking for that barbarian or amazing death threat rogue, I got you covered. Enjoy and have a great goddamn day.